I'm here with my glass of Chardonnay, and Janet says I'm not too loud, so we don't care about anyone else. I must say I find this still slightly sweet, but it's still got a more syrupy mouthfeel than if you had just a grape juice. Because a grape juice would be really, really sweet, and this isn't anywhere near it. It is a little bit more Chardonnay. It's got a different mouthfeel in the fact that it's not. I don't know, there's something about wine where the density of the liquid is deeper. And so this has got that sort of feel. So I actually don't mind it. I'm now getting more used to having non-alcoholic wines. They did mess with my mind a little bit at the beginning. But I like to swig this from the bottle when I'm cooking like I used to in the olden days. It makes me feel really rebellious. I also did use this in a bit of cooking this week, so because I didn't have any other wine in, and I thought, oh well, I've got this in the fridge. So anyway, I've got my computer here because I've planned out the webinar. Look at me, planning everything. But I wanted to start with congratulations for this week. So congratulations to Claire, who not only survived a free bar last night, but is on day 35. I think that's a really good achievement. A free bar always is one of the hardest things to do because you feel it's your duty to drink things that are free. So if you manage to survive that and get to day 35, that's cool. Karen is on day 3, and I know that's a big achievement for you. Lynn's on day 14 and says, feeling good not to have a hangover on a Sunday morning, and you've got lots of plans, which is exactly how it should be. And Joanne is also on 3 weeks. On day 40, there's Betsy, Amanda, Stacey and Mary have all gone over 40 days over this few weeks, which again is this week, which is absolutely brilliant. And Karen has got to 2 months, which is, 60 days, 60-ish days, depending on how many. Rachel Ann is on 93 days, but has also saved 90,176 calories and is better off by over $1,000, which in UK terms, I don't know how much that is, but it's a fluctuating amount right now. So well done, everybody. Caroline is on 10 weeks. Caroline, you're doing really well, and we'll answer one of your questions a bit later. And Nadia has got to 74 days, which I'm really chuffed about because I know what you've been through and how hard that's been. And Gillian has managed her first alcohol-free holiday. And Travis, who's probably not online because he's turned 40 this weekend and is running 40 miles. And is at the start of his alcohol-free journey, and so that's quite a hard thing to do on a milestone birthday. And can I also say to Susie, well done for giving a waitress stick when you asked for some fizzy water on a Saturday night and being given some stick for it, and you gave some stick back. And I think that's a really important moment, because when we've tried so hard to do something that we know is difficult for us, and somebody challenges us, maybe in even a frivolous way, instead of it's a real turning point when you go, actually, no, this is mine and I want to protect it, and I'm not having you judge me for it, and I'm going to fight back and not just accept that this is the way that you should treat me. So actually I think that's a real milestone when you feel that your sobriety is worth protecting and saying something out loud. And well done, Richard, on getting Bristol City to look at alcohol-free beer in their normal bar. I've actually tweeted that, so that will come out tomorrow morning. And finally, Sue. Now, what did I say? Oh, Sue, new job starting tomorrow, new clean slate for you. So here's good luck for your new job tomorrow. You don't need luck because you got the job because you're the best person for it. Now see if you can make this a milestone to go in and tell people you're a non-drinker, if that's what you want to be for now. So I thought it's worth celebrating all of those milestones this week, and I'm really sorry if I've missed anybody. Tell me next week. But you know, however big or small the milestone is for all of us, the fact that we can share that is really good. And I know that sometimes the celebration of milestones in the community seems like there's loads, and then those of us who are struggling often feel that it's all about celebration and not about the struggle. It's just sometimes it's hard to see those on the Facebook feed, because Facebook puts the posts that have got the most likes on it up high, and because we're all really generous and lovely, we all like it when somebody's got to a milestone, which pushes all of the posts where people need a bit more support down a bit. So it's Facebook's algorithm. But actually the love and compassion across the group is there and is incredibly genuine. So don't be put off by that if you always think it's about people celebrating and not struggling, because actually all of that's there. It's just a bit further down the feed. So I wanted to say all of that out to you. And now the questions that we're going to cover are some of the things that you've struggled with this week. You can put any questions you want underneath the thingy-majooby-dee flippity-dob, that thing, the messagey notey thing, and I will answer them. But also I've got one from last week which I'm going to start with, which I didn't answer last week because it got lost down the list. And that is, what do you think about alternative beers and wines? Are they good or not? So, as I said at the beginning, I'm drinking some Iceberg alcohol-free Chardonnay. I think they've got a drier one, which is better, but I happened to get this in a Budgeons, which I was quite surprised about, and also very pleased that they had it in the fridge chilling rather on the shelf for me to chill later on, so I could take it straight to a party last week. Like I said, alcohol-free wines mess with my mind a little bit when I first tried them, but actually I find the more I'm drinking them now, the more I see them just as a drink that has got less sugar and less sweet, that's slightly more attuned to my grown-up tastes. Now that may not be the same for you. So for example, if you have, often if people have been through proper alcohol detox and recovery, they're told to stay away from alternatives, and I can totally see that because it can be a trigger drink. You could drink this and then go, oh well sod it, why don't I just have a normal wine, and press the fuck it button and go off to the shop and buy a normal wine or beer, because the association with the alcoholic version of it is very strong. And that may be the same for you. You don't have to have been an alcoholic for that to happen. It could be that it's just that association, that smell, and it won't be good for you. What you need to do is find drinks that are a bit further removed away from the real thing. So I can't tell you whether they're good or bad because everybody's different and you need to decide for you. And the only way you can do that is to try it once and see what it does to you. And if you drink it and go, that's brilliant, it took away my discomfort, because often what we're feeling when we want a drink isn't some nagging dependency craving that we have to have a fix. It's more psychological, and we're feeling discomfort from not being able to satisfy our need to have a drink immediately. And so what this does is actually deal with that discomfort. Now, it's not an ideal way to deal with discomfort, because actually feeling it and finding new strategies to deal with it is actually one of the things you need to learn over your months as you begin to change relationship with alcohol. But it may also be the thing that helps you deal with that discomfort as you're going along. And I know that Jo talks a lot about how she had quite a bit of nanny state in January, and slowly that's been cutting down, and she's not drinking so much. But for her, it still feels like she's drinking something special, an adult, when she's out, if she takes a beer. And if she has that need to drink something cold in the evening that isn't sick and sweet, then it's still her drink of choice. So I think only you know what happens if you try it. You may not want to, and I know if a couple of weeks ago, Thingy was on. Oh, I can't remember his name. But talking about his experiences, and he doesn't want the alcohol-free alternatives. He's decided that isn't part of what he wants to do. He doesn't even want a 0.5% beer or even a non-alcoholic beer, and that's fine too. So there isn't really an answer apart from, if it works for you, it works. And if, a bit like if you were drinking gallons and gallons of Coca-Cola a day, we'd all be worried about you. If you were drinking bottle after bottle of this a day, we would still be worried about you, because that's a sign of not normal behaviour. In the same way as when I gave up drinking, my Red Bull went up, and consumption went up, and that was also a sign that I was doing some replacing of a mind-altering substance, and in the end I decided I needed to cut that down. So thank you, Janet. Yes, it was Julian. I don't know why I can't remember his name all of a sudden, but anyway, so I hope that makes some sense to you. Only you know if it's a bit of a behaviour that's spiralling slightly into a massive replacement for alcohol. But it might just be the right thing for you. And if it's a choice in a pub between you going, oh my God, I think I'm not going to be able to get out of here without having a beer, and you see there's a non-alcoholic beer, mate, just go for the non-alcoholic beer if you think that's what will get you through the evening and will keep your journey intact. So, what next? Okay, so Linda had a question this week. So asked, how long, of those of you who've gone alcohol free, how long is it before you stop thinking about alcohol? I think that's a really interesting question, and it's really important to remember that I started drinking when I was 14, so I've had, 20, wait a minute, how many years is that? 14, 24, 34, 25, 26 years of drinking history. Every experience I've had through my entire adult life has had alcohol in it somewhere. When I was happy, when I was sad, when I was celebrating, when I was commiserating, when I was stressed, and then near the end, when I was hungry and tired and thirsty, and when I was feeling low, absolutely every experience, the answer was wine, or cider, or gin and tonic, never beer. But the answer was, and so that's not something that can be unpicked really, really quickly, because your subconscious will go to those things first of all. It's your quick fix. It's the thing that you always went to, and that takes a lot of unpicking. And that will be different for everybody, and it'll be different depending on your relationship with alcohol over the last few years and through your adult life, and where your relationship with alcohol is now. And it still took me 2 years before that automatic trigger went, and it got less and less and less as time goes on. I always talk about a time when I was stressed at work. So this was 1.5 years after changing my drinking. I was really stressed at work, and I kept thinking, I was itching to do something, and I kept thinking, this is the time that I would normally have gone for gin and tonic. This is the time when I would have sat in the bar. I wanted a gin and tonic. I was feeling that discomfort because I was feeling angry and upset and hurt and ashamed and loads of other feelings. In fact, I was feeling so many feelings at one time. It is no surprise that my brain was going, wine, gin. And so I went to the shop and I brought something. It was ridiculously expensive. It promised to make me perfect. It was in Boots. All promises to make you feel like you're perfect. And I brought something, and I actually, through buying something, I dealt with my need to consume something. And so I went home and I unpacked it and I put it on my bedside table and la-di-la-di-la, and thought, oh, tomorrow I'm going to take that and I'm going to be perfect. Actually, what happened the next day is I took it back and got a refund, which was even better because I got another little sort of hit in my brain. But it shows how much of what we want is habit and habit, and how much we want to do is to get rid of that feeling of discomfort. And therefore, even if you've gone quite a long way away from drinking and you don't think about it quite as often as you do, your brain can still pull you back there at real heightened times of stress. But I think it can take quite a while, and you're unpicking lots of hard wiring. This isn't, you can wave a magic wand. The idea that actually it takes 28 days to change a habit is actually not strictly true for alcohol, I think. Yes, if you do something positive and new for 28 days, you're beginning to make new neural pathways that will allow you to carry that on. But drinking, you're trying to undo 20 years worth of intertwining with every experience you've had, and every emotion that you've had, and every reaction to those emotions you've had. And I think that takes a lot longer. So you can do some new things to help unpick that, but it's not going to be easy, and it will take time. And at the minute, if like Lottie, you're a couple of months in and you still think that you think about alcohol a lot, well, that's not unusual and it's not a surprise. And noticing that you're noticing it is actually really positive. How come I'm still thinking about drinking? Why in this circumstance do I think about drinking? Oh, I know why I'm thinking about drinking. I'm thinking about drinking because I'm bored, or I'm thinking about drinking because I'm hungry, or I'm thinking about drinking because I'm really angry with someone. That begins to tell you your triggers, and now you have to go, right, what is it that I will do if I'm hungry next time and I get this feeling? Well, eat some food. That's an easy one. But what do you do next time if you're stressed or you're angry or any of those things? What's that thing that you can put into place that you can do really, really quickly? So this might not be the drawing a long bubble bath moment. If you're really stressed and you're really angry in the heat of the moment, what do you do to deal with that feeling now that you haven't got alcohol there? Start to make a list that you know you can put on it quickly. You know, I like to write the complaint letter there and then when I'm really angry. Not the best time to write it, I have to admit, and I'm learning to not send them immediately. But, you know, actually taking action and doing something about it is really helpful. Doing that long walk around the block, you know, swearing and huffing and puffing may also be one of those things you can do. Or just removing yourself from the situation. So begin to see when it is that you're thinking about alcohol. Sometimes it's about 3 o'clock in the afternoon when it's after work and you're thinking about the end of the day and you're looking forward to some time for you. Start to reframe what time for you looks like. It isn't opening a bottle of wine anymore. It's maybe going and pottering around the garden before you go in and making the most of these lovely summer evenings. Or it might be about, you know, doing a shop for some really nice food. Or it might be about, you know, taking the dog out for a walk or calling a friend for a coffee, because it doesn't have to be a whole big night out anymore. All of these things are now open to you. You have more options that can replace what used to be just one, which was drinking. So I do think it takes time for that to unpick. And I was just going to come up to one thing. But struggling with the fact that you're thinking about alcohol a lot is normal. And actually it's even harder if you're moderating, because what you're doing is you're planning. You've got your rules. You know, I will only drink 2 nights of the week. I will only have 2 drinks. And so you're continually planning for those 2 drinks and what you're going to do on those nights when you have those 2 drinks and how you're going to make sure you stop. In some ways, it's a lot easier to know that you're stopping full stop, because then you're just changing what you do. But it's not unusual, and struggling is normal. Sharing here really does help. You know, just being able to go, I can't believe I'm thinking about wine again. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon and I haven't drunk for 3 months. Why has that happened? And everyone else can tell you that they get that too, and that's normal. You are breaking associations, so it does take time to unpick, and you need to find new things to put in that place to make it the new normal. And that's okay too, but get other people's ideas on what they do. I hate to make assumptions about what you should be doing, because we are all different. But, you know, begin to look at your life, reconnect with some of the things that you enjoyed when you were younger. Like I said, I've just signed up to do a playwriting course. And if I start coming on here moaning about the fact that I don't have time to do it, tell me I have loads of time because I don't drink anymore. And don't forget, thoughts, not actions. So just because you're thinking about alcohol doesn't mean you have to go and drink some. It just means you have to recognise that thought for what it is. It's your brain going, hey, you're bored, or hey, you're stressed, or whatever. This is what you used to do. Go on, it's quick, it's easy. Just recognise it for what it is, but it's not an order. It's just your brain messing with you. And instead of thinking, oh dear, I can't drink anymore, I miss it, and focusing on the negative aspects and that omission from your life, start reframing it as, thank goodness I don't have to do that anymore. Thank goodness I don't have to worry about waking up with a hangover tomorrow morning because I'm going to succumb to that thought. Thank goodness I don't have to worry about what I say to people because I'm not drinking tonight. So I may feel like I'm missing it, but try and reframe that into, actually, good riddance. I don't want this in my life anymore. And I think that's far more powerful. And so every time you feel that urge, stop, reframe it in your mind and go, no, actually, this is a good thing. I don't have it here anymore. Feel what triggered that urge and say, right, what do I do to deal with this next time so that I don't have it anymore? And remember, you're just feeling discomfort and it isn't going to kill you. Whereas the wine and the cider and the beer and the lager and the gin and all those things probably would ultimately, somewhere on the line, not do you much good. Okay, so the other question we had this week, see, I can't even drink this. God, could you imagine if this was real wine? I'd have it would have been gone by now. I'd have been on my 3rd glass. I'm struggling. Ooh, actually, I don't think it smells very nice. I don't think I'm going to be able to drink all of that. Anyway, coping strategies. So somebody online said this week they're really keeping in mind how they feel the next day as one of their coping strategies. So how does everybody cope with not drinking, and what's your coping strategy? So I'm just going to read some of the things that everyone said this week and add in some of my own. But it's amazing how many of you say keeping focused on the hangover, what you want to do the next day, are really strong urges for you. And it actually took me about 2 years to realise that when people talk about drinking now, I don't think about the process of drinking in that joyous moment. My mind automatically skips the hangover, and I feel the hangover. I just get this little tiny pang in my head that says those days that were awful, which was like every other day for me because I never drank on a hangover. Wasn't I so good? But that little thing in your mind that says, I now feel the hangover. Someone says to me, "Oh, I drank loads last night." I don't go, "Wow, I remember how it was like to drink loads." I just think, "Oh, I remember that hangover. I remember that hangover." And so that residual memory of a hangover is very strong for me. And I'm not sure if it is for you, but clearly lots of you focus on not having the hangover the following day, having something in the morning that you're looking forward to. And so if you're finding that you've got an evening out where you're worried about the fact that you might be tempted, or that you've got an occasion, or you're seeing a friend or somebody that means that you might be tempted, make sure you've got something the next morning that you're really looking forward to doing. So then that will focus your mind totally. But it's not the only thing you can do. So look, thinking of how much money you would have spent is another really good one. And we talked earlier about how somebody's saved about $1,000 so far in their 90 days of drinking. You could, if you really wanted, put some of that money into a jar and save it up for the weekend, and know that when you get to the weekend that you've got that money to spend. But also just knowing how much it is. I mean, I can't believe now I bulk at spending, £20 on something, and then I think, hang on a minute, there were times when I used to spend £20 on, I could have spent that in an hour in a pub on, a couple of glasses of wine. Somebody said to me, "Oh, you're earning no money, but you're still going to classical concerts a lot." I said, "Well, hang on a minute. A classical concert in London costs £9 to go to. That's less than the cinema, and it's about the same price as a glass of wine in the pub." So begin to think about what equivalent you can spend money on, and that's quite good for keeping you motivated as well. All those things you never thought you had time and money to do, you actually do have time and you do have money. You can drive home afterwards. You won't get home at 2 a.m. You can actually get back at a reasonable time. So they're really positive things to focus on. Somebody has a disco in their bathroom, because of course, why wouldn't you? I mean, I'm not sure if you've seen the photos, but they've got disco lights, they stick on the techno, they stick on the bubble bath, and they go for it. It's sort of the antithesis of one of the nice things that I like. I don't have a bath very often, but sticking on a play on the radio, sitting in the bath and listening to it is sort of the same for me. Although I do like my tea and techno, but that's what gets me through the day. I just wake myself up and find out how grateful I am to have had a good night's sleep compared to passing out. I really look forward to going to bed these days, most of the time. Sometimes I'm a little bit anxious, but most of the time I'm really looking to that point where I can crawl into bed. I love my bed. I spent quite a lot of money on a nice mattress so that I feel really comfortable. And to me, it's a really snuggly place where I can put on my headphones and listen to a play or a book. And I look forward to that. And I really like that feeling of waking up feeling rested, because for 20 years or so, I didn't feel that way when I woke up. And somebody else said that eating well and eat early, that kills the cravings. I think that was Hugo. And that's really important. I now eat far earlier in the day than I used to, because I used to be able to eat a lot later because I was drinking beforehand. I don't need to do that anymore, so I actually eat well, eat early, and that stops me wanting to do lots of other things in the evening. Or maybe not. I still might eat some chocolate, but not like loads of it, not like loads as if I was hungry. And Harriet says, "I never woke up once and regretted being sober the night before, but I've lost count of the number of times I drank and regretted it the next day." Yeah, nobody ever wakes up after a sober night out going, "Oh, I wish I had drunk last night." So just remember that. I think I might have to do that into a photo with a quote on top so we can share it. But actually, it's a really good point. You've never regretted the mornings that you've woken up without a hangover. Okay, so next, moderation after being alcohol free. I think this is really interesting because it comes up a lot in the community, and it comes up for different people at different points in time. But it's often, I'm not going to name any names, but some of you ask it quite often when you get to the 2-3 month mark, because you're thinking now you can moderate. And I think that's quite telltale in its own way. And I tell you that for two reasons. One is it's quite usual to get something called euphoric recall, which is where you begin to remember only the good times you had with alcohol and forget all the bad ones and start to go, well, actually, it wasn't that bad, really, was it? I had some great times and I really enjoyed that time, and that time. You can probably actually name them, because in between all of that are the ones that you forgot and that you're more embarrassed about. But after you've been without alcohol for a month, you begin to think, well, I've cracked this and actually it wasn't so bad after all. And that's when ambivalence begins to creep in, where you start going, oh, well, you know, this is still feeling uncomfortable because I'm not drinking and I still feel I'm missing out. And that gave me some hangovers. So at the minute, the two are balancing out. And so does it really matter if I go back drinking? Because at the minute, I'm not feeling mega amazing as everyone says I should. I'm still feeling tired and a bit run down, and I still feel discomfort because I'm not drinking. And there I was having hangovers, so they're not much different. So why don't I just go back and see if I can moderate? So they're really normal things to think about. So don't feel guilty for thinking that, but maybe start to unpick what's happening. Are you are you bored of the discomfort of not dealing with? Are you bored of dealing with the discomfort and that it doesn't seem to be going away? Are you expecting some great miracle epiphany and have dropped 5 stone and that's not really happened? Is it taking too long? If there's any consolation, this is exactly how I feel about exercise, which is I get to about the 1 month mark and then it's the ambivalence sets in and go, well, I should just be happy and bad. And the discomfort of going to the gym is far outweighing the idea of having to buy a bigger set of knickers from Marks and Spencer's. So none of that's unusual. Begin to unpick what it is that you're doing, which is that you've got some euphoric recall and you're beginning to feel that it hasn't been worth it and therefore you want to go back. But that's really, really terrible, because you've actually invested loads and loads of time, loads and loads of energy, had loads and loads of discomfort to get you to the 2 month, 3 month, 4 month mark. And you're already telling me that alcohol is still in your mind and it's not going away. So that still means you probably need a bit longer. You haven't given yourself a fair wind. You might need some more time to understand what the hard reset feels like. And it doesn't mean at all that you can't moderate. I'm not saying that because, like I say, everyone's different. But if you've really only got to the 2 or 3 month mark, I don't think you've given yourself enough time. And where you've got to is the ambivalent stage and the euphoric recall stage. And I think you probably need to give yourself a bit more time to see what life is like. And I pull on something that somebody else said today, which is they've got a friend who is now successfully moderating. But when they stopped drinking, they thought they were going to be doing it for good. So they never had an end game of, right, now's the day I'm going to start moderating. And moderation came as a bit of a surprise. So they had managed to, I think this is one of Holly's friends, managed to unpick that wiring I talked about at the start of this session. They'd already managed to unpick that wiring successfully, that none of those situations ever triggered them to want to drink, and that drinking was genuinely a choice for them when they chose to pick up a glass. I don't think even now if I picked up a drink, it would be through choice. It would still be some hard wiring that makes me want to hit the fuck it button. And unless you can tell me that you wouldn't be triggered to drink, and that you would take an active and conscious decision to drink and can actively and consciously stop after a couple of drinks, you might not be ready yet. I'm sounding really pessimistic and nasty, but I do think you've got to rewire your brain first, and that takes a lot longer. To disassociate all of those things that created your drinking habits away from alcohol and into a place where it's the last thing on your mind, and if you've got a drink in your hand, it happens to be a rare occurrence where you've made a choice. And actually, if you read Annie Grace's book, that's basically what she says as well, which is you're taking years and years and years to unpick some hard wiring. And even now I come across circumstances I haven't done in the last 4 years where I've unpicked, where I get a trigger, particularly with a friend that I don't see very often, who I used to drink with the most. I find those occasions quite triggery, actually, and that still surprises me. Don't forget, your journey with alcohol isn't linear. In the same way as you have never drunk a bottle of wine every night since you were 14. It's gone up and down and around the houses and back again and forward and back all the way through your drinking career. Well, your sober career can be just as perilous. And so your sobriety is also not linear, and it could take a step back. And that's why sometimes when you change your drinking, it feels like you're taking 2 steps forward and then 1 step back, because you're not feeling happy, or you felt the urge for a drink and you thought you'd got over that. And so don't let the good days and the good times cloud your judgment on that sort of stuff. I think when you feel that you've really successfully uncoupled all of those feelings away from the need to have a drink, there might be a time that you can think about moderating. But I'm not an expert, and you are different, and you are your own personal experiment. And the only way you'll find out is by trying. And I know that some of you have tried that before and you don't think that's going to work for you. But give yourself as long a lead in as possible, as long a time without drink as possible, because you deserve to give yourself that chance to make whatever choice you make in the longer term successful, which means you need to give yourself time to disassociate and to do a hard reset. And don't forget, we're unpicking some societal norms as well. I think somebody said you really need to tackle the false beliefs behind alcohol and really know that they are false beliefs before you come back to them. Because actually, if you do recognise the fact that actually what we've been sold is a whole history of lies about alcohol, and that it isn't any of the things that it claims to be, then what are you missing by not drinking? Absolutely nothing. And it's true. We're told lots of things about alcohol, but ultimately it's a poison. And the only reason why we can process it as a poison is because we make 2 units of alcohol in our stomach every day. Because our stomach's a great big fermenting machine. And so we have some natural alcohol as a byproduct. And so our body can flush it out. It's when you put more than those 2 units in that it becomes a bit of a problem. And the more you put in, the more problem that becomes. But that's the only reason why we could process it. Otherwise, it would be just as bad as strychnine and all those other poisons, because ultimately it's our system can't cope with it. So, and actually, I'm really interested because I'm looking at my eyes on this screen now. Look at my eyes. They're really white. And it took at least a year for the yellowish tinge to go from the whites of my eyes. And that's sort of when I did that and looked in the mirror and saw that for the first time, I was like, whoa. So sometimes the smallest changes can be the biggest. So don't give in too early. Don't be ambivalent. Don't think of your drinking days as being the most exciting thing in the world that you're now missing. You're just feeling discomfort. So that's all I was going to cover today, and I thank you whoever posted the Tom Daley video earlier about mocktails, not cocktails. I will tell you my little Tom Daley story, which makes me feel, well, I've got 2 Tom Daley stories actually. The first is I drove him around during the Olympics. So I showed you those 3-month pictures of me and saying this is what 3 months looks like. Well, part of my job was to drive Tom Daley around the Olympic Park, and he is of course absolutely lovely. But the other time I bumped into him was about 2 years ago in Soho. And I often tell the story about one of the exciting things I did when I gave up drinking was drive my girlfriend's car at the time down to Soho at 11 p.m. on a Saturday night and pick up frozen yogurt. Because you can do that if you're not drinking. You can drive a car into the middle of central London and you can pick up yogurt at the time when everyone else is being thrown out the pub. And so I really like that story about going and doing something completely ridiculous and picking up frozen yogurt. But Tom Daley hasn't been drinking for the last 2 years either. And the last time I saw him, he was in my favourite yogurt shop in Soho, and we were all there at 11 p.m. having frozen yogurt, and he was there with mates and he hadn't been drinking. So, you know, let's all be more like Tom Daley. Let's all go and eat Snog ice cream in Soho. In fact, next time we do, the time after next when we do a lunch, we'll all go to Snog afterwards and be a bit like Tom Daley. So thanks for posting that up, because it reminded me about actually the two things about Tom Daley that makes me feel like I too am an Olympic diver, but why his video makes absolute sense. And I know, Sophie, you find Tom Daley a bit too much, but he's still finding his feet. He's still but a young gay, and he will get there. And he will find, you know, he will find his level. He's going to be around for a while, but he will find his level as a person and a human being. And soon maybe all the gay men I know will stop objectifying him on Facebook, which would also be quite nice. But anyway, I have to cut the end of that off of the video on YouTube. But anyway, ask questions for next week. I will go through the stream from Facebook to pick up any questions again next time. But you can email me, laura@joinclubsoda.co.uk. You can also put it on the Facebook feed. You can also come on here and ask the questions. I don't think I missed anyone's questions, but if you did, now's the time to pop it up. And yeah, that's it. I'm going to finish. Bye all.